Chapter 387. Shen Yueji was shocked. Mo Wushang, what are you doing? Put me down first. The road is slippery, I'll take you to find water. Obviously, the man was very familiar with the geography of the Broken Intestines cliff. He carried her down the steep slope, through a green forest, and Shen Yueji could hear the sound of water from afar. It was sloping down from a high place. It was a waterfall as high as 10 people. How do you know this place? You used to come here often? Putting her down from his arms, Mo Wushang did not speak, but just stared at the rapid flow of water from above. When Feng Jiuqing and her met with an accident at the Broken Intestines cliff, he was in the dark. If Feng Jiuqing did not protect him, he would protect her. He also saw with his own eyes the dependence and deep love in her eyes for the man. At the moment of crisis, it was he who held her hand and pulled her up from the steep cliff. Just now, the scene from a few years ago was repeated, but this time, it was she who personally opened the man's hand. Even when she said those words of deep love to him, Mo Wushang could no longer see the affectionate look she had when she faced Feng Jiuqing a few years ago. Her heart, as expected, no longer had him. It could not be said that there was no him, perhaps there was still him, but this deep love, unswerving love, was gradually being ground down, slowly disappearing. The smell of blood, and the blood on her face, a lot of it dried on her face. Shen Yueji was a little disgusted by this sticky smell and touch. Walking to the river, she first washed the serum on her face, and the hem of her clean dress was also stained with blood. She took off her coat, as if she was going to the river to wash when the man did not exist. The man stood 3 steps away from her. Perhaps because some of the blood had soaked through her clothes and touched her skin, Shen Yueji began to hesitate before she made the final move. She looked back at the man 3 steps away from her. Mo Wushang, I want to take a bath, stay away from me, don't peek. The man slightly raised his eyebrows, his handsome face expressionless, but he stood there with his own thoughts, not moving. Mo Wushang. Shen Yueji gritted her teeth and shouted, Did you hear what I said? I want to take a bath, stay away from me, don't peek. There are wild beasts passing by at the foot of the mountain. I will guard you here, or else you will not be safe. Have you ever seen a beast that isn't afraid of water? Besides, if she went into the water, the beasts wouldn't be able to swim. Even if there were beasts, they wouldn't be able to do anything to her. The man paused and frowned. There are snakes in the water and many unknown poisonous things. Shen Yueji. She held a handful of water and waved it towards the man. Only a few drops of water splashed on his handsome face. The man didn't dodge. He stood where he was. In order to make it easier for her to splash him with water later, he took 2 steps forward. Shen Yueji lost her temper because of his subconscious shameless action. Forget it. She muttered to herself. It wasn't like she hadn't seen it before. She took off her inner clothes. When she was only left with a small doo-doo, she hesitated. The man behind her was even more terrifying and savage than a beast in her heart. She put the clean clothes on the shore and waded into the water. Mo Wushang glanced at the clothes that she had neatly stacked on the shore. Her clothes were wet in many places, and he remembered that she still had to wear her clothes after her bath. Chapter 388. His dark eyes dimmed a little. He stepped forward, picked up the clothes she had taken off on the shore, and then turned to go elsewhere. Shen Yueji didn't dare to soak in the water for too long. Perhaps it was because of Mo Wushang's words that there was something scary in the water. She took a quick bath and swam back to the shore until the sticky smell of blood on her body dissipated. What are you doing? She looked at the clothes that the man handed to her. Shen Yueji took it. There was still heat on it. For a moment, she couldn't tell what she was feeling. She just said, Did you dry my clothes? The clothes are damp. You will catch a cold if you wear them. The man gave a brief explanation. Seeing Shen Yueji come out of the water, he consciously turned around and let her put on her clothes first. Mo Wushang, why are you here? Is it because you are worried about me? After she put on her clothes, Mo Wushang turned to look at her. There was a rare seriousness and gentlemanly look on his handsome face. But the way he looked at her was clearly saying, otherwise. Didn't Hong Fui come to you for something? I can't go back now. I can only go back after Feng Joching sends someone to find me. Maybe I will have to stay here for a few days. You can go back first. Don't worry about me. Before she finished speaking, the man hugged her waist again. He didn't say anything, but it was better than talking. Shen Yueji could feel that as long as she was here, the man would not leave. She felt warm and sad in her heart. Such a good man, why did she put all her heart on Feng Joching and not look at him more? If she had fallen in love with Mo Wushang, would none of this have happened? Perhaps she and Mo Wushang now. She clutched the man's collar tightly. Mo Wushang, can you not be so good to me? It was so good that she didn't know how to refuse his kindness. She could only accept it with a clear conscience. She said that she was willing to accept him, but she didn't know how long she could hold on and what the consequences would be. The man looked down at her, his black eyes as bright as stars. His tight lips eased a little because of the anger just now. Now you realize that I am so good to you. Shen Yueji subconsciously grabbed his collar. I realized it a long time ago. Why are you so nice to me? What if I can't give you what you want? Jia knows what I want. Looking at his handsome face, Shen Yueji choked for a moment, her face inexplicably hot. In case I can't give it to you. Carrying her into the cave, Mo Wushang took off his outer robe and placed it on a hard rock before placing her on it. As Shen Yueji sat on it, the man's tall body also pressed down. Shen Yueji was startled and subconsciously placed her hands on his chest. Mo Wushang, don't mess around, her lips were blocked. Unlike the previous few kisses, the man's kiss this time was gentle with a hint of roughness. It was as if a storm had suddenly started after the calm of the storm. Shen Yueji's hands were restrained by the man and she could not move. She kept her mouth shut and did not want the man to come in. Who knew that he would directly touch her chest with one hand? Seeing that she still didn't let go, his other large hand wandered around her body wantonly, vaguely showing signs of moving downwards. Mo Wushang, don't. The tip of the man's tongue slipped in and entangled with hers. Chapter 389. She licked her lips, which were numb from his kiss, and complained, haven't I coaxed you? Why are you angry again? I just apologized to you. The man snorted, who accepted your apology? Listening to his tough tone, Shen Yueji also became angry. This is my own business. If you can't stand it, then don't look. Who asked you to intervene? I'm not a fool. Even if you didn't come, I wouldn't let myself get hurt. When she met the man's dark eyes, Shen Yueji swallowed the words that were on the tip of her tongue. She sat on the stone and turned her back to him. She didn't know how long it took, until her waist was held in the man's arms. Her nose was full of the man's scent. She heard the man's helpless sigh from above her head. Shen Yueji's nose was sour, and she was stuffy in his arms. Don't be angry, okay? You usually indulge me. You will make me feel that you don't care about me. The man rubbed her head. In your heart, is my love for you so unbearable? Who asked you to be angry with me? I heard that most men are narrow-minded when they are angry with women. Now you know I'm narrow-minded. Shen Yueji, if you want to be angry, then be angry. I won't coax you anymore. Mo Wushang, since you are so difficult to please, why are you still here? Go back to your regent's mansion immediately. I don't need you to accompany me. Shen Yueji finally calmed down. Because of the man's words and the obvious sharp tone, she pushed him away discontentedly and got up from the man's arms. When she saw that the man really didn't say a word this time, nor did he come forward to ask her to stay, but turned around and left the cave. The strong and tall figure slowly disappeared from her sight. Shen Yueji's eyes turned red in an instant. There were countless waves rolling in her heart, which was very unpleasant. Under her body, the man considerately took off the robe for her to prevent her from catching a cold. She could still smell the man's unique scent when she touched it. She knew that the man was angry for her own good. He blamed her for not discussing with him in advance and taking such a big risk. If anything happened, she might not even be able to save her own life. Shen Yueji knew everything, but she was still stubborn, especially when she saw the man was angry but still held back. In her heart, she was happy that the man cared so much about her. Perhaps it was because she was used to hearing the man's gentle and lingering tone. She couldn't accept him suddenly being a little tougher. She wiped the corners of her eyes and found that there were really tears flowing out. She picked up the clothes on the rock and was about to chase after them, but when she ran out of the cave, she hesitated. She uncontrollably withdrew her legs and feet in time. She sat back down in the distance, feeling lost. She held the man's clothes in her arms. Sitting on the hard and damp stone was not comfortable at all. She was wondering if she had really gone too far this time, but she did all this just to gain Feng Zhouqing's trust. Even if his trust was zero, there had never been a woman who would throw away her life for him at such a critical moment. In the past, he was the one who protected her, but now, it was another woman who protected him. She was taking a step on her own path of revenge. Chapter 390. She and he were not on the same line. His identity and background were suspicious. Just like him, he had promised himself that he would not lie to her, but he still hid his identity. Shen Yueji lay on the stone, unable to feel the cold and damp touch. Her mind was full of Mo Wushang's resolute back view. When she woke up again, what came into view was a man dressed in black, and his muscular chest was slightly moving. Other than the man's unique scent, Shen Yueji also smelled the fragrance of meat. She thought she was dreaming. Didn't the man leave? Then who was the man holding her in his arms? She stared at the man in confusion, as if trying to figure out if she was dreaming or if the man did not leave at all. She pinched the man's face. Mo Wushang, is it really you? The man wrapped her hand in his palm and kissed the back of her hand. I'm sorry, it was my fault just now. I won't lose my temper with you in the future. Are you hungry? I just went to roast rabbit meat for you. So, Mo Wushang did not leave at all. He just thought that she should be hungry and went to hunt rabbit meat for her. Shen Yueji's nose turned sour. She threw herself into the man's arms. I thought you didn't want me anymore. The words were sad and powerless. For a moment, Shen Yueji's heart was flustered. Mo Wushang was too good to her. He indulged and tolerated her. It was hard for her to imagine what would happen if, because of today, she and Mo Wushang no longer had any entanglements. Would she still be able to calmly do what she wanted to do? Would she still think of him? Many years in the future, would she remember that there was such a man who had once treated her so well? Don't cry. Mo Wushang gently wiped the tears on her face. His eyes fell on her little mouth that was sobbing because of the grievance. Just now, she said that she was afraid that he would not want her anymore. He carefully held her in his arms. You are already a woman in my bones. How can I bear to not want you? He never thought that these words would come out of her mouth. Even if she said no, it would be him. He was afraid that she would say no. He was afraid that she would dislike him one day. But he did not expect. She was actually worried that he might not want her anymore. Jia, don't cry. It's all my fault. I was just afraid that you would be hungry, so I went to find you something to eat. When I came in, I saw that you were asleep, so I went to roast the rabbit. I'll bring it to you when you wake up. He took the rabbit meat from the rack and said, I just roasted it and it's still warm. Do you want me to feed you? Then why didn't you say anything just now? Why did you turn around and leave? Shen Yueji sobbed. Just like when she was still Jiu Yuqin, she left so decisively without any explanation. I'm just angry that you risked your life. Mo Wushang looked at her solemnly. I don't want to go through such a dangerous thing a second time. He was afraid. The woman in front of him was someone he would love for the rest of his life. How could he bear to lose his temper at her? He was just angry at himself. Even if he were to lose his temper, it would only be directed at him. It had nothing to do with her. Even going out was to vent his frustrations. He didn't want to frighten her with his appearance. Chapter 391. Shen Yueji tore a large piece of barbecued meat and handed it to the man's mouth. You eat first. She met the man's puzzled eyes. Shen Yueji leaned over and kissed the man's smooth chin. You've been busy and haven't eaten anything yet. Fill your stomach first. I can't finish it anyway. The man looked at her delicate smile and felt wronged after crying. He opened his mouth and allowed her to bring her little black hand and a piece of rabbit meat into his mouth. Mo Wushang, I just remembered that you smashed everything in my Jilan courtyard the day before yesterday. Not a single thing is intact. I haven't even settled the score with you, yet you still dare to get angry at me. She could clearly see the man's dark eyes flicker. Mo Wushang kissed her little mouth and asked, Is the rabbit delicious? Shin Yueji nodded cooperatively. Yes. Is one enough? I'll go and catch another one for you. Sensing that he was trying to change the topic, Shin Yueji sneered and grabbed his collar to stop him from moving. Where do you want to go? Come back and tell me clearly. I'm hurt. Shin Yueji didn't understand why he suddenly said that. Her face quickly showed a surprised expression. She quickly pulled his clothes and checked his injuries. Where are you hurt? Take off your clothes and let me see. Shangguan, you beat me. Shangguan, you beat you. Shin Yueji narrowed her eyes and tried to pull off his clothes. Where? Let me see. Besides, you're so good at martial arts. I know Shangguan you knows martial arts, but how could he be your opponent? Mo Wushang, tell me the truth. What's going on between you two? You don't care about me anyway. Mo Wushang looked indifferent. It seemed that he was going to pull up his clothes again. It doesn't matter. As long as I love you, it doesn't matter if you don't care about me. Shin Yueji, looking at him twitching, Shin Yueji couldn't help but pull down his big hand. Mo Wushang, are you out of your mind again? Let me ask you, when did you two fight? No, he didn't like me and beat me. Shin Yueji, after a long time, he finally squeezed out a few words from his mouth. Why do I not like you? Perhaps it's because Jia dotes on me? The man looked at her. Shin Yueji was startled. Even the hand that was tearing his clothes was startled. However, she still did not slow down. Instead, she pulled his clothes. The loose robe was on his body. Right now, he was only wearing a tight suit. Therefore, when Shin Yueji tore it off, it was abnormally easy. She then looked at his smooth chest and saw a bright purple mark. She touched it with her little hand. Is this the place? The man looked a bit aggrieved and pressed her hand. Well, it hurts. Jia, rub it. Don't you know how to dodge when he hits you? Don't tell me you can't beat him. Shin Yueji looked at the wound on his chest. It was a white expanse, and this large patch of purple was as dazzling as it could be. It would be a lie to say that she was not angry in her heart. Not only was she angry, but she also felt an inexplicable heartache. Although Shangguan Yu is a gentleman, I've long seen through him. If he really wants to achieve a certain goal, he will do anything, by hook or by crook. He will do anything. Chapter 392. She glared at the man in front of her. When have you ever let yourself be taken advantage of? Tell me, what are you up to this time? No other ideas? Jia doesn't feel sorry for me. Looking at his aggrieved expression, Shin Yueji's heart softened. She quickly touched his face. Okay, I'm afraid of you. Tell me, does it still hurt? Did you see a doctor and apply medicine? The man shook his head. Shin Yueji glared at him. Then what do you want? Jia, kiss me. Shin Yueji's face immediately heated up when she realized that he was asking her to kiss him there. Yet, this man looked so serious and said such serious words. Looking at his serious face, it was as if she was the one who thought wrong and the man was just saying it casually. After helping him put on his clothes, Shin Yueji began to eat the roasted rabbit meat. Forget it, I don't feel sorry for you anyway. If you want to die, go ahead. If you die, I will remarry. Mo Wushang was speechless. Looking at the little woman he missed sitting in front of him and eating with relish, the man's dark eyes were deep and dark. She really didn't care about him? In this barren mountain, Shin Yueji suddenly realized that although the man was not good at cooking, he was quite good at roasting things. She did not know what he had sprinkled on the rabbit meat, but it did not taste sweet. Instead, it tasted moderate and especially delicious. Mo Wushang, are you busy now? The man replied angrily. Not busy. Not busy. Since you're not busy, then go catch another rabbit for me to roast. You're not going. If you don't want to go, Then forget it. After eating, I will go catch one myself. Anyway, there are many wild beasts in this barren mountain. If you are not worried that I will be. Before she could finish, she saw the man suddenly stand up, obviously to catch a rabbit. As he stood up, Shen Yueji quickly stood up and ran in front of him, blocking his way. Mo Wushang stood where he was and stared at her for a while. He frowned in confusion. Go and catch it now. Clean it and come back to roast it. You're almost done eating. Shen Yueji didn't say anything. Instead, she raised her greasy little hand and suddenly wrapped it around the man's neck. Her little mouth covered in rabbit grease sealed the man's thin lips. Feeling the man's tall and sturdy body, she was startled. Shen Yueji stopped and then left the man's lips. Is it delicious? For some strange reason, the man nodded stiffly. Shen Yueji's eyes carried a smile. She moved closer and bit the man's thin lips again. Does the wound on your chest still hurt? The man shook his head. Then, Shen Yueji kissed him again. Do you still think I have no conscience? Yes. This time, the man reacted quickly. Shen Yueji stuffed a mouthful of rabbit meat into his mouth and said, Good boy, let's go catch some rabbits. The man's handsome face softened and he calmed down. His beautiful lips curved slightly. Millimeter, I'll be back soon. Wait for me here obediently and don't run around. Looking at the man's back as he left, Shen Yueji could not help but smile. This man, he was really, sometimes when he lost his temper and let his temper run wild, she actually felt that he was damned cute. And, Shen Yueji also found that no matter how angry this man was because of her, as long as he was kissed and coaxed by her, he would immediately recover. Chapter 393. Shen Yueji realized that she didn't feel cold at all. She didn't know if it was because of the barbecued meat, but she felt warm in her heart and body. Shen Yueji didn't know if it was because of her quarrel with the man, but she didn't feel cold at all. Instead, she felt warm in her heart and body. Your Majesty, there is a secret report from the palace. There is an urgent matter that requires you to return to the palace as soon as possible. Above the Broken Heart Cliff, Feng Jiuqing's bloody clothes had been cleaned, and even the wounds on his body had been bandaged. It had been nearly 4 hours since Shen Yueji fell off the cliff. The secret guards he sent down to search for her were still nowhere to be found. Qiu Yang saw him like this and remembered the important secret report from the palace. He couldn't help but remind him, Your Majesty, Imperial concubine Shen is a good person, she will be fine. Dozens of well-trained and highly skilled secret guards have gone down from here to search for her, but now there is no trace of her. Yueji is just a woman, no one knew better than him how high the Broken Heart Cliff was. He originally had his own plan, but he didn't expect that Shen Yueji didn't follow his original plan. He thought that all women in this world were afraid of death. They liked glory and wealth, and relied on their husbands. Even Jiyu Yuqin, who used to be the center of everything, was nothing more than this. So he felt that she was boring. Even if she liked him, to the point that she would give everything for him, but he didn't love her. Perhaps he still cared about her a little. He cared about how much she cared about him and how much she liked him. He cared about how obedient she was. Perhaps, in his heart, she was still better than those women. After all, she had been with him since he had nothing. But he also didn't expect that a daughter born in a family of generals, who had lived a luxurious life since childhood, who had never suffered any hardships or suffered any grievances, would be willing to die to protect him. Even Jiyu Yuqin couldn't do it. A few years ago, he held Jiyu Yuqin's hand. She was also at the bottom of the Broken Heart Cliff, looking at his body full of injuries. She also cried and begged him to let go. But at that moment, how could he really let go? Even though his body was in pain, even though countless wounds had opened up, he did not let go of her hand. It was just that his plan was to pull her up from the bottom. He wanted her to devote all of her loyalty to him. But Shen Yueji, however, she pried open her fingers and pried open his fingers one by one. Then, she fell off the cliff. Feng Jiuqing didn't know what was going on, but he felt like he was possessed by a demon. It was like he was in a dream. Chapter 394. Your Majesty. Qiu Yang was worried, so he called out again. Feng Zhouqing seemed to come back to his senses. His eyes were scarlet and bloodshot. Your Majesty, Imperial concubine will be fine. She is so kind and I believe that God will take care of her. Li Yingying got out of the carriage. She still had a lingering fear after what had happened just now. Her face was pale. Naturally, she had seen the scene where Shen Yueji fell off the cliff to protect her man. She was shocked. She had suspected that she had no feelings for the emperor, but now she was willing to die for him. Since she cared about him so much, why did she bring her into the palace to seduce the emperor? Feng Zhouqing saw her familiar face. He didn't know what was wrong with him. Suddenly, he stepped forward and took Li Yingying into his arms. Hugging her tightly, he hugged her tightly. He had always been fearless in the face of danger, but today he lost his composure. Qin, is that you? You're back. Your Majesty. Li Yingying couldn't breathe because of him. She started to struggle in his arms. Your Majesty, I'm Yingying. You've mistaken me for someone else. Your Majesty. When she saw Qiu Yang behind him through the man's body, the latter covered his mouth and coughed slightly. He said respectfully, Your Majesty, there is an urgent matter in the palace that requires the emperor to return to the palace in time. Please help me persuade the emperor to return to the palace as soon as possible. Li Yingying knew that Qiu Yang was talking to her, but she was shocked. She didn't know how to answer him. After all, she wasn't the real empress. Moreover, the emperor was conscious. He just thought she was the former empress at this moment. If she rashly, but when she met Qiu Yang's pleading eyes, omitted her. Benefactor Qiu is right. Please help me persuade the emperor to return to the palace. Guard Qiu is guarding here. If Miss Shen is found, Guard Qiu will inform the emperor as soon as possible. Kong Yin got out of the carriage. He had seen so much excitement, but he didn't intervene. He had been watching the show with folded arms. Yesterday, he had already told Shen Yueji everything. He believed that Shen Yueji's choice was all within her plans, but he had never imagined that she would put on such a show. She was returning everything that Feng Zhouqing had given her. He couldn't help but rejoice that he had chosen to rely on this woman. Sure enough, after 9 years of marriage, in terms of understanding, he really couldn't compare to Shen Yueji. Seeing that even the emperor's most valued great master Kong Yin was begging her, and seeing the young emperor's pitiful appearance, Li Yingying couldn't bear to see him like this. She gathered her courage and reached out to caress the man's back. Your Majesty, let's return to the palace first. Nothing will happen to the imperial consort. Bodyguard Qiu will be here to guard her for you. General's mansion. From the moment the emperor's carriage was attacked on the Broken Heart Cliff to the moment Shen Yueji fell off the cliff, the people in the general's mansion immediately received the news. However, at this moment, the general's residence was as stable as Mount Tai. No one was anxious. I never thought that the Prince Regent would go in person. General, Madam, what do you think? Did the son-in-law do well this time? Double Happiness dutifully poured tea for them. Chapter 395. Madam, Jia and the Prince Regent are down there, a man and a woman alone. What if? You're not serious. What are you talking about? Shen Qiu, who was drinking tea, listened to his words and almost threw it at him. If not for our people guarding below, if they knew that Jia fell off the cliff, Ari, you say, what is this girl doing? Why didn't she suddenly tell us? We almost thought that the old-haired person is going to die before the black-haired person. My daughter is really smart. She made such a scene and saved the emperor. In this way, won't the emperor like her even more? Oh, by the way, Double Happiness, where did your young master go? Oh, young master. Double Happiness poured another cup of tea for Madame Shen and said, he knew that something happened to Miss. He fell off the cliff and went to the street to cry. If General's wife thinks it's embarrassing, I can pull young master back, but I may not be able to do it alone. General and Madam must send more people to help me. Shun Yu Kai pulled a few of his old friends and cried on the street. The common people in the capital didn't know what had happened, but after he did this, they all knew that the eldest daughter of the Shun family had fallen off the cliff to save the emperor, and her life was uncertain. Shen Yueji's feat was praised by the people in the capital. They didn't expect the eldest daughter of the Shen family to be so heroic. She was not weaker than a man. She was indeed the daughter of the Shen family. Shen Yukai was crying his heart out on the street. Occasionally, a few passers-by would come over to comfort him. As a result, Shen Yukai wiped his tears and snot on his body. They quickly walked away with a black face and didn't even want to talk to him. After crying for a long time, Shen Yukai saw the corner of a white robe appear in front of him. Looking up from the corner of the robe, he saw Shangguan Yu's handsome face, which was covered in scarlet blood. He used to be gentle and refined, but now he was like a wolf and a wild beast. He looked very different from his usual amiable and approachable self. If he used to be a docile cat, now he looked like a crazy tiger. When Shen Yukai saw him, he only glanced at him before withdrawing his gaze and continuing to sit on the ground, wailing loudly. After crying for a while, he found that Shangguan Yu was still staring at him. He stopped crying and looked up at him. "Does young Master Shangguan plan to sit here and cry with me?" She sobbed as if she had been greatly wronged. Shangguan Yu's face did not change much. It was still the same face as before, cold as frost, so stiff that it seemed as if only a layer of dry skin was left. If not for his scarlet eyes, Shen Yukai would have thought that the man in front of her was just an empty shell that could not move, a body without a soul. Shangguan Yu's thin lips moved slightly, and it took him a long time to say something. He squatted in front of Shen Yukai and held his shoulders with his big palms. "Tell me, she's not real. Jia's not real. His strength made Shen Yuechi's face change color. If he had not cried for a long time and had no strength, he would have slapped him back. Chapter 396. 2 lines of tears slid down Shen Yuechi's cheeks. She's gone at such a young age. As her brother, I'm going to die before him. Father and mother will only have me as their only son. Sob, sob, sob. No, it's impossible, it's impossible. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. How could something happen to Jia? It can't be. Jia won't die. She won't die. How could it be? Shangguan Yu murmured to himself as he staggered and fell backward. Shen Yukai watched as his body fell back powerlessly. His face was deathly pale and bloodless. He sat on the ground and cried. Because he had fallen on the ground, his palms were bleeding from being cut by the stones. His snow-white robe was also stained with dust, causing his body to become a lot dirtier. But he didn't seem to feel it. He struggled to get up from the ground and walked forward with difficulty. Shen Yukai didn't know where he was going. He called him a few times, but he didn't respond. He was like an emotionless puppet with no soul and only a body before. Now, he gave Shen Yukai the illusion that very soon, he wouldn't even have this physical body anymore. He had seen Shangguan Yu's love for Jia for so many years. He had always been free to let it go. Because Jia didn't like him, he never paid attention to Shangguan Yu. He didn't observe Shangguan Yu carefully. He only knew that there was such a person who had been pestering Jia. This was the first time that Shen Yukai looked at him seriously. After all, he was the eldest son of the Shangguan family and the only son of the family. He couldn't die like this. It was true that Jia faked her death. What if he really killed Shangguan Yu? Thinking of this, Shen Yukai cried enough. He quickly got up from the ground and chased after Shangguan Yu. Shangguan Yu stumbled and swayed as he walked aimlessly. There seemed to be a road of no return in front of him, and there seemed to be nails under his feet. He couldn't even walk steadily. Shen Yukai knew that he couldn't respond to him. In order to not attract too much attention, he didn't call out to him either. He just followed behind him, following him all the way to the wilderness, through the forest, to a deserted place with few people, and then through the mountains and rivers, to the Broken Heart Cliff. He only relied on his footsteps to run all the way. He didn't feel tired at all. It felt like he was a puppet being controlled by someone else. He was muttering Jia's name. As he passed through the forest, a wild beast rushed up to bite him. He didn't resist, letting the beast bite his arm. He didn't seem to feel any pain. For a moment, Shen Yukai thought that he was going to be eaten by the beast. His bloody arms were all bitten by wild beasts. Later, Shen Yukai found out that Shangguan Yu really wanted to be eaten by wild beasts. He wanted to die. It was as if the thing he had been chasing for his whole life had suddenly disappeared and would never appear in this world again. He had lost all hope of living, so Shen Yukai was horrified. He didn't expect that this skinny man would have such deep feelings for his little sister. It was as if he was possessed. If it wasn't for Mo Wushang, he really couldn't help but try to matchmake Mo Wushang and his little sister. In the future, his little sister would marry such a man. She would be the one in charge of the family, and this man would also do his best to pamper and protect her. He would never let her suffer any grievances. Chapter 397. He saved him from the claws of the beast. It was as if he knew that he was following him. He did not turn around to look at him, nor did he speak to him. He continued to murmur the same words that he had said along the way. He continued to walk forward. When he passed by a patch of water, he did not know how deep the water was and walked straight. As a result, he almost drowned. He was so frightened that he quickly jumped into the water and fished him out. He pressed on his chest to let him breathe. He was already a soulless body. This time, he couldn't move. It was even scarier. Fortunately, he saved him in time. The man was fine. When he woke up, he pushed Shangguan Yu away immediately and continued to stumble forward. Shen Yukai had no choice but to follow Shangguan Yu to the end. He had walked for a long time with Shangguan Yu, and there was no path on the cliff. When Shen Yukai saw Shangguan Yu jump down, he was shocked and hurriedly used his lightness skill to catch him. In short, Shen Yukai felt like he was going to be crippled. He even regretted following him. Why did he follow him? Why didn't he just let him die? Damn it, was this man so fragile? He was so fragile that he was about to die. He couldn't live without his woman, could he? Although he couldn't live without his sister, she was his sister. They were different. Finally, he reached the place he wanted to go, the Broken Heart Cliff. His white robes were no longer clean. They were covered in dust and dirt. Even his handsome face had many scratches and scratches. His arm was covered in blood. It was hard to tell if his arm was still intact or broken. He stood at the top of the Broken Heart Cliff, looking down at the smoke-shrouded cliff. Why did you save me? Shen Yukai was speechless. My father and your father are old friends. If something happens to you, how are we going to explain to your father? You're the only son your father has. Speaking of this, Shen Yukai couldn't help but sigh. Shangguan Yu, can we not be so weak? They were all men, and men were supposed to achieve great things. Was there a need to spend all this effort on romance? If my sister dies, you won't be able to live, right? Tell me, aren't you ashamed? Ashamed? Ha, Shangguan Yu smiled weakly. From the moment I followed Jia tirelessly, I didn't know what shame was. He turned around and saw Shen Yuechi's disdainful face. He smiled. Young Master Shen, you must have no idea what it feels like to be in love. That feeling, when facing the person you love, you can only hope that everything is good for her. If you love her, you can become a demon for her, you can go crazy for her. In the past, I tirelessly followed behind her. Even though I knew that she didn't like me, hated me, or even loathed me, I was still diligent and happy. As long as I could see her every day, it was a kind of satisfaction to me. Do you know, when I see her holding a whip in disgust and waving it at me? Chapter 398. When the whip in her hand hit me mercilessly, I felt the pain of the whip. That kind of pain was like a pain that penetrated deep into my bones. It was so painful that it was hot and scalding. However, I turned this pain into love and joy. As long as I remembered that she was the one who hit me with the whip, I could not feel the pain anymore. All I could think about was her. When she hit me, I was not angry at all. I was not angry at all. Instead, I thought that she was very cute when she was angry. She has always been so obvious when it comes to whether she likes or dislikes someone. When she likes someone, she can devote all of her passion and joy to them. But when she hates someone, just like how she treats me, she can be merciless and completely reject me. She thought that as long as she was fiercer and more ruthless to me and hit me harder with her whips, I would one day back off after losing face and suffering in her hands. But she was wrong. Not only would I not back off, when her whips hit me harder and harder, it was like helplessness in my heart that I couldn't get what I wanted. It was like a branding iron that left a deep, heavy mark on my body. It was so deep, so heavy that it reached into my bones. Brother Shun, after thinking about it, his voice suddenly became hoarse and deep, mixed with deep pain. In order to get her, I used all kinds of means. Perhaps some of the means were unworthy of my identity and made it difficult for me to raise my head in capital city. However, I did not regret it. Even if I almost hurt her, I was willing to use the rest of my life to make up for it. But now, after learning that she's no longer in this world, I know that I was wrong. How wrong I was. It turns out that loving someone means making her live a good life instead of blindly trying to get her. In order to get her, I did so many things that hurt her. I thought that I was the only one who could give her happiness in this world, so I destroyed all the illusions that she liked. Before, I didn't understand why I was so good to her, and why she still hated me so much. I could tolerate everything about her, no matter if she was stubborn or stubborn. Later on, when I saw her with Mo Wushang, I was filled with hatred. I don't understand, I've been so good to her, why does she hate me so much? Why does she want to reject me? She keeps saying that she's the emperor's woman and doesn't want to implicate me and my Shangguan clan, but why can she be with Mo Wushang? That man wanted to kill her. She's actually willing to stay by his side and accompany him without any complaints or regrets. At that moment, I couldn't deny the anger and jealousy in my heart. Why can Mo Wushang do it, but why can't I? I just want to be by her side, and when she needs me, she can see me whenever she turns her head, but she's stingy now, so she wants to take back even this little bit. Shinyu Kai, tell me, my heart isn't made of iron. I've sacrificed for so long, for so many years, and suffered so much coldness and discrimination. I have no regrets, but when another man is accepted by her, I also feel pain, jealousy, and jealousy. Chapter 399. Why was she already dead before he could even make a move? She didn't even give him a chance to take her back. She just left and disappeared, as if she didn't exist. Jia, do you really hate me that much? In your heart, you hate me so much that I didn't even have a little chance. You made me, just when I finally made up my mind to get you, you decisively chose to die instead of giving me the chance to do so. Shinyu Kai looked at his heartbroken expression and sighed in her heart. Compared to him, her nonsense really paled in comparison. Hey, brother Shangguan, there's always a chance. Although my little sister fell down, we don't know if she's alive or not. We haven't found her body, so maybe she's still alive. His words rekindled Shangguan Yu's hope. He looked at him for a while and then withdrew his gaze. There was only a touch of sarcasm at the corner of his mouth. He suddenly laughed. How is that possible? To fall from such a high place like Broken Intestines Cliff, even a Jianghu martial artist with great martial arts might not be able to survive, let alone a weak woman like her. In that kind of dangerous situation, she was not prepared at all. What if she did? Shinyu Kai anxiously continued his words, Brother Shangguan, you know that my little sister has always been smart and has a lot of wicked ideas. She's never willing to let herself be at a disadvantage. She's such a smart person and has so many wicked ideas. How could she throw away her life without any preparation? How could she defend herself in that kind of situation? Shangguan Yu looked at him. Brother Yu Kai, you don't have to say anything. I know what you're worried about. You're worried that if I die on this heartbroken cliff, your general's mansion won't be able to explain it to my father. It doesn't matter. My father and mother are sensible people. They know how I feel about Jia. Now that Jia is gone, they should have known that I would make such a choice. Don't worry, my father and mother won't blame you. Shangguan Yu's words had already made Shinyu Kai understand what he wanted to do. His previous guess was not wrong at all. He was indeed courting death and wanted to follow his sister. Shinyu Kai was very glad that he had caught up. Otherwise, because of Jia's joke, An innocent life would have been lost. He didn't know what he was feeling right now, but when he saw Shangguan Yu really turn around and jump off the cliff, he couldn't tell what he was feeling right now. I've come to accompany you. We can't be together in this life, but I hope that after death, I will die with you in the same place, so you won't be lonely. No. Brother Shangguan, Jie is not dead. Shen Yukai anxiously shouted at him. But Shangguan Yu just smiled and didn't believe it at all. His good-looking lips curled into a smile as he glanced at Shen Yuechi's face, which was slightly out of control due to shock. Brother Yukai, is there any meaning in lying to me just to keep me alive? You should know that for so many years, I've lived for Jie. Jie is dead, and I've long been like a walking corpse in this world. It's better to let me go down to accompany her. It's so dark underground, and she must be afraid, so only I can accompany her. Chapter 400. Shen Yukai found that his head was really swollen now. He found that this guy was a bit stupid. No wonder his sister didn't like him. If he was so stupid, it would be strange if she liked him. He hesitated on the spot. He had just said that Yu Ji was not dead in a moment of desperation. He was afraid that he would not be able to control himself and tell Shangguan Yu everything later. After all, Jie had told him that only the people of the general's mansion could know, and no one else could know. But if he didn't say it, the cold wind blew on his face, making him feel cold. While he was hesitating, the white blood-red robe suddenly jumped. Shen Yukai was shocked and cursed out loud. Then, he saw the snow-white figure falling straight down. He was shocked and rushed down without thinking, jumping down the cliff with him. When he finally grabbed the corner of Shangguan Yu's clothes, Shangguan Yu felt someone pulling him and opened his eyes. He almost couldn't believe that Shen Yukai also jumped down with him. Brother Yukai, he pursed his lips. At this moment, he didn't know what to say. His heart was in a mess. Jie was dead, he had no hope of living, but he was the only one who wanted to die. He didn't want to drag Shen Yukai down with him. Uncle Shen and Auntie Shen had just lost their beloved daughter. It was hard for them to accept seeing their daughter die before them. If Shen Yukai were to leave them now, he didn't know if their bodies would be able to take it. He grabbed Shen Yuechi's wrist, and wanted to send him up with the last bit of internal force. The wind was too strong at the bottom of the cliff, especially when they were falling straight down. It was too fast for Shen Yukai to bear. His face was almost distorted by the wind. He threw himself into Shangguan Yu's arms and cried bitterly. Wait for me to finish talking. Jump, I don't want to die yet. You bastard, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Don't think about reincarnating. I'll pester you to death. Brother Yukai. Shangguan Yu looked at him with mixed feelings as he threw himself into his arms, his hands holding his waist tightly, and he had no strength left to send him up. In the past, only women would throw themselves at men. In the past, there were many women who did the same to him, but because he only had Jie in his heart, he would usually reject them completely. Of course, there were a few women who didn't stop them. They were from aristocratic families and took advantage of the moment when he was unprepared. But for a man, this was definitely the first time Shangguan Yu had experienced this. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. He just looked at Shen Yukai and listened to the whistling wind and his painful cries. He didn't know whether he should hug him or not. He just stood there, not knowing what to do. Shen Yukai didn't feel him hugging her for a long time. She was so scared that she took the initiative to grab his hand and hug herself as they fell. Shangguan Yu, I'm warning you, when we reach the bottom, you'll fall under me and be my cushion. It doesn't matter if you're smashed to pieces, but even if I die, I want to die a beautiful death. I can't die like a piece of meat. Brother Yukai, let go of me. I can send you up. Chapter 401. He almost burst into tears, wiping his tears and snot on Shangguan Yu's body. Shangguan Yu, do you think I dare to let go of you in this situation? I'm heavier than you and I'll fall faster than you. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You want me to be your human cushion? You want to fall to the ground yourself? I'll fuck your grandma. You'd better give up on this idea as soon as possible. Let me tell you, I'll never let you get what you want. Shen Yukai deeply felt that his little universe was about to explode at this moment. Damn Shangguan Yu, I'm going to die with him, but he still has such an idea. He buried his head in Shangguan Yu's arms and cried, my poor father and mother are going to die before me. Sob, I don't know if they will shed a few tears after I die, or will they hold a big banquet and think that they can finally stop worrying after I die. Sob, 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 brother Yukai. Shangguan Yu was speechless as he looked at the back of his head, crying in his arms and gasping for breath. If you let go of me now, I can really send you up. If you wait any longer, it'll be too late. I'm the one who wants to die. I don't want to drag you down. You're the only son of uncle and aunt. You're not the only son of the Shangguan family. Shangguan Yu was rendered speechless by him. After a long time, he looked at the cliff above in silence. I've made up my mind. Brother Yukai, you don't need to persuade me anymore. I've made up my mind. If you dare to let go of me, I'll keep jumping. Anyway, I'm heavier than you, and I'll fall faster than you. Hearing his half-threatening tone, Shangguan Yu, who was about to stop him, paused. He looked at him and sighed silently. Brother Yukai, if you're unwell, even if I meet Jia in the underworld, I won't be able to face her. She hates me. Please don't make things difficult for me. Sob, the problem is that you can't see her down there. We can only see the king of hell down there. Brother Yukai, Shangguan Yu, why didn't you believe what I said? I already said that Jia is not dead. Jia knows what she's doing. She was prepared before she did this. But you fucking tricked me to death. I'm really going to die. Bang. As Shen Yukai complained, there was a sudden bang. What happened to them? With both feet on the ground, Shen Yukai bounced a few times on the ground. He looked at Shangguan Yu in disbelief, then looked at Shangguan Yu again. Just like him, Shangguan Yu, who was also safe and sound, revealed a surprised expression when he saw that the other party's expression was the same as his. The Broken Heart Cliff was so high that falling from it would definitely result in one's death. However, not only were they fine, they even landed safely on the ground. Not only that, didn't they land a little too quickly? Shen Yukai looked at his feet suspiciously and was shocked. There was no ground at all. There was clearly a layer of hazy fog below, and he couldn't see anything clearly. It was really scary to look at. Cough, cough, the sound of coughing came from behind them. Shen Yukai and Shangguan Yu both turned around and saw Jichu covering his mouth and looking at them awkwardly. Chapter 402. The two of them behaved intimately, sticking close to each other. If one of them was a woman, they would definitely be lovers who would go through life and death together, but they were two men. That was why Jichu suddenly coughed. Jichu wasn't surprised by their appearance, especially Shangguan Yu. However, he didn't expect Shen Yukai to appear here, so he was greatly surprised. Young Master Shangguan, eldest young master. He greeted the two of them. Seeing him, Shangguan Yu's mind flashed with countless conjectures. Finally, he mocked himself. He didn't doubt that it was Jichu who saved them. But Jichu was Mo Wushang's bodyguard. If he was here, did it mean that Mo Wushang was here too? He mocked himself because he thought he was the first to arrive when Jia was in trouble. But he didn't expect that Mo Wushang would always be one step ahead of him. His emotions probably affected Shen Yukai, who was beside him. Shen Yukai jumped out of his arms and kicked him. Shangguan Yu staggered and almost fell to the ground. Luckily, Jichu caught him in time. He barely managed to stand up. Shangguan Yu, is there something wrong with your brain? I told you just now that Jia is fine. She's alive and well. You didn't believe me and insisted on jumping down with me. Not only is there something wrong with your brain, I think your IQ is 0. Shangguan Yu was speechless. Although he was in deep grief, he wasn't completely mindless and had lost his memory. Shen Yukai said that he was the one who insisted on jumping down with him. Shen Yukai didn't even look at him. He was still throwing a tantrum. It's all thanks to Bodyguard G's sudden appearance. If it weren't for Bodyguard G's sudden appearance and saving our lives, I would have been smashed to pieces along with you on this heartbroken cliff. By the way, guard Ji, where's my little sister? Oh. Ji Chu glanced at Shangguan Yu and said respectfully, Miss Shen is with my master. Take me to her. Young Master Shen, please follow me. Is Jia really fine? If it was Shen Yu Kai, Shangguan Yu wouldn't believe it. But if it was Ji Chu who said it, Shangguan Yu's eyes had been glued to Ji Chu from the moment Shangguan Yu asked Ji Chu. He didn't miss any expression on Ji Chu's face. Ji Chu smiled, Miss Shen is indeed safe and sound with my master. If young Master Shangguan doesn't believe me, you can go and take a look with this subordinate. Naturally, Shangguan Yu would follow him to take a look. Right now, he didn't believe anyone, even if it was Ji Chu. However, he still had to confirm it, because Ji Chu had no reason to lie to him. In the cave, Shen Yueji consecutively ate 2 roasted rabbits. In fact, she was planning to let Mo Wushang catch the second one for himself. However, when he finished roasting it, he discovered that she had already finished the first one. Thus, he took the initiative to hand over the roasted rabbit to her. She ate all the meat, and the man only ate a few mouthfuls of her leftover bones and some bad meat. Seeing Mo Wushang's appearance, Shen Yueji felt a little upset. Thus, she changed her sleeping position and turned her back to him, planning to not look at him. She was so full that she didn't want to move. She rubbed her stomach and groaned, Mo Wushang. The man heard her and walked to her. He bent down in front of her and saw her hand on her bulging stomach. His little face was fierce. Chapter 403. I'm too full. I don't want to move. Give me a massage. The man obediently rubbed her belly, carefully and with just the right amount of strength. Is it very uncomfortable? What do you think? Shen Yueji rolled her eyes at him. Try eating 2 rabbits at once. And such a big rabbit. Mo Wushang, rabbits are so cute. How can you eat them? Shen Yueji covered her face. She didn't know what she was doing. She just said whatever came to her mind. The man looked at her helplessly. Good girl, I brought the rabbits to you after I cleaned them outside. He was afraid that she would be reluctant to eat the rabbits because they were so cute. So he asked Ji Chu to clean them up outside. It's not comfortable to sleep in the cave. When will the dog emperor come to me? I don't want to sleep here for the next few nights. Hearing her dissatisfied complaints, Mo Wushang rubbed her belly a little harder. Shen Yueji felt it. She slapped his hand away and glared at him. What are you doing? If you're not comfortable, you can sleep in my arms. I'll hold you to sleep. Shen Yueji squinted at his handsome face for a while and suddenly smiled. That won't do. I'll sleep for so long. What if your body becomes stiff? I'll feel sorry for you. She leaned over and kissed the man's beautiful face. Mo Wushang, will you sleep with me? The man's black eyes were full of warmth. He looked at her lovingly. Do you want to be alone? Yes. Shen Yueji nodded cooperatively. I feel very uncomfortable without you holding me to sleep. My heart is empty. Every morning when I wake up, I will subconsciously touch the bed, but I'm very disappointed when I don't touch you. Mo Wushang, do you think I'm sick? The man didn't speak but stared at her. Just when Shen Yueji thought he was going to do something, the man suddenly smiled. The man who didn't smile gave people the feeling of a cold sculpture. The sculpture was so perfect that it didn't look like a real person. In the end, it lacked a trace of warmth. When he smiled, he was even more eye-catching and beautiful than a myriad of flowers blooming at the same time. In other words, even 100 flowers could not compare to his alluring smile. For a moment, Shen Yueji was stunned. She stared at him blankly. It was indeed rare for a man to be this beautiful. Mo Wushang, she reached out to touch his face, feeling his inhuman existence. Why are you laughing? Such a beautiful smile almost made her think that she was in a dream. It was so beautiful that it didn't seem like a real person. It seduced her so much that she lost 6 of her 7 spirits. In fact, Shen Yueji even had an illusion that if Mo Wushang hadn't liked her so strongly and had smiled at her, she might not have hated him so much. After all, there was no one in this world who wouldn't like such a good-looking man. even if she already had foam joching in her heart at that time. But, Jia can't leave me now? Hearing the man's explicit words, Shin Yueji coughed in a low voice and then turned her face away awkwardly. Don't talk nonsense. When did I say that I can't leave you? Don't flatter yourself. The man smiled and kissed her pouting lips. I was wrong. I can't leave Ji-er. Chapter 404. Shin Yueji blushed and burrowed into his arms. Ji-er. Little sister. Two voices rang out from behind her. Shin Yueji was startled. She quickly got up from the man's arms and looked at the three men at the entrance of the cave. Like Ji Chu, she wasn't surprised that Shin Yukai was here. But why was Shangguan Yu here? From the moment he saw Shin Yueji, Shangguan Yu acted as if they didn't exist. He quickly stepped forward and looked Shin Yueji up and down. Seeing that she was really unharmed, he felt as if he had found a treasure after losing it. Even though he was in front of Mo Wushang, he still quickly walked in front of Shin Yueji and grabbed her hand, resisting the urge to hug her. Instead, he carefully looked at her and asked, Ji-er, is that really you? It's me. Shin Yueji was probably touched by the man's scarlet eyes. Although she didn't know what he had experienced during the time she jumped off the cliff, she could see that he was covered in blood. His arm was empty and the wound on it was obvious that the blood had not stopped flowing. He had only been standing there for a while, but it was already stained with blood. Shin Yueji couldn't tell what she was feeling. She looked at Shangguan Yu and pursed her lips. I'm sorry. She did not know that Shangguan Yu would have such a reaction when he found out that she had jumped off the cliff. Even if she was very open-minded about such things, and even if she had a heart of stone, seeing Shangguan Yu's current state, she knew that he was in such a miserable state because of her. How could her heart not be moved by this? Moreover, compared to the previous Shangguan Yu, the way he looked at her today was so clear, pure, and careful. There was no strong possessive feeling in his eyes. Shin Yueji knew that he had changed a lot through this incident. She had never thought that her every move would cause him to care so much. This kind of love, from the intense possessiveness, to now only wishing for her to be well. Suddenly, she envied the original lord. In her eyes, she was so blessed, to have a family that loved her so much, to have a man who could abandon everything at any time for her. She was like a favored child of the heavens. You guys go out first. I have something to say to Shangguan Yu alone. Shin Yueji pushed the man beside her. Mo Wushang, can you go out first? I'll just have a few words with him. He'll be fine soon. Mo Wushang kissed her cheek. It was rare that he didn't make things difficult for her. He stood up and left. Shin Yueji hurriedly called out to him when she saw him leaving. Mo Wushang looked back at her. Shin Yueji blushed and returned his clothes to him. It's windy outside. Put on your clothes and be careful not to catch a cold. Mo Wushang returned the clothes to her and draped them over her shoulders. Compared to solitude, solitude wishes for your health to be fine. Looking at Shangguan Yu's pale face, Shin Yukai crossed his arms, shook his head, and sighed. See? Why did my little sister choose the regent? This is the difference between the two of you. You always listen to Jia and let her beat and scold you. This will make Jia think that you are very useless and incompetent. The Prince Regent is different. Although he is also beaten and scolded, he has his own opinions on some things. For example, this matter of putting on clothes, even Jia can't do anything about it. Chapter 405. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I couldn't sleep at night, and I heard Ji-chu say that you were busy, so I came to see you. I've been out for so long. If the Emperor's people notice something, I'm afraid they will be suspicious. I should go back. She tried to make her face look indifferent. She turned around. Mo Wushang didn't get up to take her hand this time. But when Shin Yueji walked to the door, it was locked from the outside. She couldn't get out even if she wanted to. She turned around and glared at him. What are you doing? He wouldn't let her go. A coquettish fox was seducing him in the room, saying a few provocative words from time to time. The man was indifferent and didn't explain, but he still let her take advantage of him. Seeing her reaction, Mo Wushang's dark eyes flickered, and there was a layer of warmth in them. Jia, he is actually. Ah Shong, look at what kind of woman you found. Doesn't the little one know how to bow to the big one? He even dared to hit you. Come, let me take a look. Look at your face. Look at how badly you've beaten him up. The woman in red was so distressed that she wanted to throw herself into his arms. Her tone was sweet and charming. The man's cold eyes suddenly became cold and contracted. Even the aura in the room froze at this moment, as if it wanted to freeze 1 to 3 feet. The woman in red immediately stopped on the spot, not daring to take another step forward. However, her mouth was still unconvinced as she muttered, "What are you doing? You weren't like this in the past." In bed, you. Mo Wushang. This time, Shen Yueji was completely furious. She didn't have a whip in her hand. He should be glad that he didn't carry a whip with him. Otherwise, it wouldn't be his own hand that she used to whip him. She stretched out her foot and kicked the door several times. "I said let me out, didn't you hear me? Hurry up and open the door." Her face was dark and cold, and even her tone was full of impatience. If you looked closely, you could see the crystal tears at the corner of her eyes. However, she forced herself to swallow it back. The man got up and strode to her, ignoring her struggle, and held her in his arms. His thin lips pressed against her soft ears, and he gently coaxed her, "Don't cry. Let me go." Shen Yueji struggled hard in his arms. Jia, he's a man, not a woman. This sentence caused Shen Yueji to be silent for a long time. Looking at her silence, Mo Wushang knew that she listened to his words. He put his thin lips on her pink neck and kissed it gently. "He's just. No wonder you can promise me that I'll be your only woman in the future, in the past and now. Mo Wushang, I was wrong about you. So you like men." Phut, the man in red couldn't help but cover his mouth and burst into laughter. Hearing this laughter, Shen Yueji looked past Mo Wushang's stiff body to look at him. Mo Wushang said that he was a man. Now, she took a closer look at him. His skin was fair, his legs were long and slender, and even that face that could bring calamity to a nation made one unable to look away. Also, his voice was sweet and charming, and it was impossible to tell if he was a man or a woman. Perhaps because she was looking at him seriously, Shen Yueji's eyes fell on his chest, and she found that his chest was flat. Generally, if a coquettish vixen like her was really a woman, her chest would definitely be bigger than other women. It was impossible for it to be so flat. Chapter 406. The anger in her heart didn't lessen. Instead, it deepened. If she hadn't pushed the door open, this man would have jumped into her arms. And Mo Wushang didn't reject her. If she hadn't spoken up, perhaps the two of them would have hugged each other. Who knew, in the end, they might have rolled onto the bed together. "If you like men, tell me. Why are you pestering me? At least I'm straight." She didn't mind two men liking each other. She just couldn't accept it. To her, Mo Wushang would rather be with a woman than a man. "I won't disturb you anymore. Jia, it's not what you see. There's nothing going on between us." Mo Wushang felt a headache coming on, especially when he saw Shen Yueji's calm face. Although the anger was gone, her face was still unfamiliar and calm. This made Mo Wushang feel inexplicably anxious. "I'm talking to him about something. Can he almost talk about being in your arms and holding you together when we talk about it? Would a normal man call you Ah Shong so intimately when talking about something?" The man in red, Mo Wushang, "Jia, you don't have to explain. I understand. I knew you hated me for so long. You must have some ulterior motive for suddenly being so nice to me. Isn't your motive?" The man's voice was low. Shen Yueji's eyes reddened instantly. She stared at him. "You're being mean to me." The man choked and softened his tone helplessly. He hugged her and rubbed his chin against her restless head. "How can I be mean to you when I can't even wait to love you? Jia, believe me, okay? I really only like you from the beginning. You really only like me. I'm the only woman you like. But you like men. Liking men is different from liking women. The man in red snorted a few times. Hearing him laugh, Shin Yueji couldn't help but stare at him. She narrowed her eyes dangerously. Is it funny? The man in red stopped laughing immediately and said with a serious face, no. In his heart, he silently prayed for his friend of many years. What kind of troublesome daughter-in-law did he find? Look at this wild cat. Not only was it hard to coax, but it was also insatiable. Especially the slap he gave to Mo Wushang without any hesitation. He was still in a daze. Ever since he was young, who dared to hit him? Even those enemies who wished for Mo Wushang to die would not dare to even touch a single strand of his hair, let alone hit him. However, this woman was different. Not only did she hit him, but Mo Wushang did not get angry. Instead, he even had to lower himself to coax her. Not only was it hard to believe, but it was also inconceivable. Hong Fui. Mo Wushang lightly spat out 3 words from his thin lips. When the man in red heard his name, he immediately pricked up his ears, only to see the man lowering his head and explaining to Shin Yueji with a doting expression. He grew up with me. His personality is different from other men. He likes to cause trouble and is flamboyant. Don't lower yourself to his level. There's nothing between me and him. Shin Yueji was quiet for a moment. Then you two stayed in the same room in the middle of the night, and he was already charging at you. Why didn't you dodge? Chapter 407. Mo Wushang was the regent of the Feng country. In private, there must be a lot of things that couldn't be said in public. So Shin Yueji didn't ask much. She just listened to his explanation and went out. The man followed her out without hesitation. Why are you here suddenly? If you want to see me, ask someone in your mansion to tell me. It's windy outside. I'll go find you myself. It's nothing. I just suddenly wanted to see you. Now that I've seen you, I should go back. Before she turned around, the man's tall body pulled her into his arms again and hugged her tightly. He hugged himself very tightly, so tightly that there was not a single gap left. What are you doing? Let go of me. I should go back. Shin Yueji felt uncomfortable being hugged so tightly by him. She didn't think about it and tried to break his hand. However, the man directly lifted her chin and kissed her. For a moment, her mouth was filled with the familiar smell of the man. The moment his lips and tongue came in, Shin Yueji opened her mouth subconsciously. He chased after her little tongue playfully and tangled with her. After the kiss, she gasped heavily. Being pulled into the man's arms gently, she heard the man's low laughter. I'm very happy. Shin Yueji's little face was a little red from the kiss. She leaned against his chest. The cold wind couldn't blow in, and the blush on her face didn't go away for a long time. If we encounter such things in the future, can't you explain it to me quickly? You're very happy to see me angry, aren't you? Because he wanted to see her jealous look. It looked very real, but it was very far away from him, like a dream. If he hadn't seen the tears at the corner of her eyes, Mo Wushang might have looked at her a little longer. She was angry, which meant that she had him in her heart and cared about him. That was why he wanted to see her angry look more. He wanted to know that he still had a place in her heart. Although it wasn't a deep place, he knew that she was not indifferent to his existence in her heart. At least she would feel uncomfortable when she saw him with other women. Even if he wouldn't be with other women. It's going to be dawn soon. I should go back and pack up a bit. When dawn comes, I'll set off with His Majesty back to the palace. After staying in the man's arms for a while, Shin Yueji leaned against his chest, listening to his strong heartbeat, and spoke in a muffled voice. Actually, she didn't really suspect Mo Wushang. It was just that she was a little unhappy at that moment. Now that she knew about it, she was a little depressed that she had lost her composure. I'll send you back, okay? No need. Don't the two of you have something to discuss? I can go back by myself. The man was silent for a while. Hong Fui did have something important to discuss with him. Looking at the little woman in his arms, it was obvious that she did not want him to send her back. He paused for a moment. Should I ask Ji Chu to send you back? Shin Yueji said nothing. The man's voice became gentler. I'm worried about you going back alone. Let him send you. All right. Coming out of the man's embrace, Shen Yueji looked at the man's handsome face and suddenly called his name, Mo Wushang. The man lowered his eyes to look at her. Will you use me? I won't. These two words were resolute and decisive. Chapter 408. Then I will go back first. Ji Chu. Yes, master. TSK. This person has gone far. Did his soul follow him? Hong Fui crossed his arms and walked out of the room. He stopped in front of the man and teased him. Mo Wushang didn't look at him. Go back. I will not go with you. Hey. Hong Fui squinted his eyes dangerously. Mo Wushang, what do you mean? You promised to go back with me. Why should I go back alone? I will not be able to explain to the Empress Dowager. He saw that Mo Wushang was about to leave and quickly walked over to stop him. Mo Wushang, have you forgotten your identity? Have you forgotten your mission? After staying in the Foam Kingdom for so many years, do you really think of yourself as a citizen of the Foam Kingdom? Looking at the man's indifferent black eyes, Hong Fui's face turned cold. Did you fall in love with that woman just now? The answer was non-committal. The man raised his eyebrows. Hong Fui looked at him in disbelief. What about Jiu Yuqin? Did you fall in love with Jiu Yuqin? No. I know that Jiu Yuqin was harmed because of the Empress Dowager. If you didn't leave Foam Nation at that time, perhaps that woman wouldn't have died at all. However, you have to remember that a person with a big goal shouldn't be tied down by love. Wushang, there are millions of people in the North Underworld. Are you going to watch them rely on an environment without a leader? The man didn't speak but walked past him with a cold face. Hong Fui frowned. The Empress Dowager ordered you to leave with me tonight and rush back to the Northern Underworld. Otherwise. He paused for a moment. I know I can't beat you, but I will use all my strength to tie you up and bring you back. If you like that woman just now, I can tie her up for you and bring her back to the North Underworld. You can do whatever you want. Wushang, Jiu Yuqin is dead. Now the North Underworld needs you. You have been fighting with the Empress Dowager for so long. It's enough. Don't forget that she is your mother, your biological mother. Don't touch her. If you dare to touch her, I will not let you go easily. After saying this, the man turned around and entered the room. Hong Fui wanted to follow, but just as he was about to step into the room, a strong inner force came from the room, and the door closed with a bang. Fortunately, he reacted in time. He quickly took a few steps back and narrowly avoided getting his nose smashed. The Empress Dowager is your mother. During the time you were away from the Northern Underworld, she has been helping you with the affairs of the palace. The Empress Dowager is old and can't manage much for you. The Northern Underworld is your country. The ministers in the court and the people in the capital are all your people. If you continue to be stubborn like this, when the time comes, I've said it before, in my heart, even the millions of innocent people in the North Underworld. The door was pushed open, revealing the man's handsome and natural facial features. His indifferent aura was daunting. His facial features were perfect and flawless, like a sculpture. His hands were behind his back, and his loose black robe made him look like a statue of a god. He looked at him disdainfully, and spoke slowly, but it revealed endless determination and undeniability. It's not even comparable to a hair of hers. But she's dead. Hong Fui's heart was cold. Even if she was a dead person now, her position in his heart was still so heavy that it had never changed. Chapter 409. Who is that person? He is a friend of Master. Ji Chu drove the carriage. When he heard the woman's questioning voice coming from the carriage, he answered respectfully. Friend. Why don't I know? Ji Chu smiled. Mr. Fui has always been elusive and rarely appears in the capital. He just arrived tonight, so it is normal that Miss Shen has not seen him. He is not from the Foam Kingdom. Ji Chu probably did not expect Shen Yueji to say that he was not from the Foam Kingdom so straightforwardly. He paused and nodded. Yes. Where is he from? Ji Chu hesitated. He is from the North Underworld. The North Underworld. The North Underworld, Nanyu, and the Foam Kingdom were known as the three biggest countries in the world. She had heard about the tyrannical nature of the Emperor of Nanyu and his love for beauties. As for the Emperor of the North Underworld, it was said that the Empress Dowager had been managing the court. Some people said that there was no emperor in the North Underworld and the country belonged to the Empress Dowager. Some people said that the Empress Dowager took away the military power of the North Underworld Emperor and imprisoned him in the palace. There were many rumors about the North Underworld in the world, and it was difficult to distinguish the truth from the lies. However, it was too far away and Shin Yueji was not interested in these things, so she only heard some rumors. What is the relationship between your master and the North Underworld? Ji Chu scratched his head awkwardly. Although his master liked Miss Shin very much, but there were some things that he really did not know whether to tell Miss Shin or not. What if he said something that he shouldn't have and harmed his master? Since master likes Miss Shin so much, if Miss Shin has any questions, you can ask master yourself, this subordinate. Yes, I understand. Shin Yueji did not push him too much. She leaned on the soft cushion and put a piece of Osmanthus cake into her mouth, but the man named Hong Fui just now is quite good-looking. Ji Chu said. Miss Shin, Mr. Fui's appearance is neither a man nor a woman. How can he be compared to my master? Really? I think that Hong Fui's appearance is not worse than your master. Moreover, he looked much more enthusiastic than Mo Wushang. Shin Yueji's seemingly meaningful words caused Ji Chu's heart to beat wildly. Did Miss Shun have a change of heart after seeing Mr. Fui's appearance? The entire Dark North Kingdom had heard of Hong Fui's looks. The title of the first young master of the North Underworld was naturally Mr. Fui. Moreover, according to Hong Fui's character, if he knew that Miss Shun was interested in him, Ji Chu felt that his hand that was holding the reins was trembling. Miss Shun, did master do something to displease you? Please say it. When we return, this subordinate will tell my master. My master promises to change. It's nothing. I just feel that your master has been hiding too much from me. I'm a narrow-minded person and I can't tolerate anyone lying to me. Furthermore, your master has promised me that he would never hide anything from me. If she hadn't bumped into him tonight, she probably wouldn't have known who Hong Fui was. She also wouldn't have known that Hong Fui was actually in contact with the people of the North Underworld. There are some things that master doesn't want Miss Shin to know for her own good. After all, Miss Shin is a woman. The things about the Northern Sea and the Phoenix Nation. Chapter 410. Ji Chu understood the meaning of her words and subconsciously tightened the reins. Miss Shin. Don't worry, I won't think too much. I won't say what I shouldn't say either. After all, what I have in my heart is just a guess. Let me down at the inn in front. Master has ordered me to send Miss Shin back to the general's mansion. Ji Chu was about to urge the horse to move. Shin Yueji frowned. The general's mansion is at the corner in front. If I'm in danger, I can just shout and the people in the general's mansion will hear me. After all, you are a secret guard of the regent's mansion. You are always exposed when you are with the regent. Moreover, the emperor brought many people. Do you want the emperor to suspect me? Hearing her words, Ji Chu didn't dare to be stubborn anymore. He stopped the carriage in front of the inn. Miss Shin, please. After getting off the carriage, Shin Yueji glanced at him and nodded. You can go back. Yes. After Ji Chu left, Shin Yueji didn't return to the general's mansion directly. Instead, she looked at the inn in front of her, hesitated for a moment, and walked in. Because it was the middle of the night and the sky was almost bright, there were no customers. When she entered, she could only see the flickering candlelight and blurry figures. But two familiar figures by the window caught her eyes first. She found an inconspicuous place. When the waiter came to greet her, she put a silver ingot on the table and signaled him to be quiet. The waiter happily took the silver and carefully retreated. Father, you have been here for a day. It's time to go back. A handsome man in a white robe was expressionless. His black eyes were locked on the drunk middle-aged man opposite him. He frowned and something flashed across his dark eyes. He grabbed the wine jar. Father is the first-grade Prime Minister of Foam Country. If you are seen by others, how can you behave? First-grade Prime Minister? Heh. Jiu Wei sneered. Why don't I remember that I am still the first-grade Prime Minister of Foam Country? He grabbed the wine jar from Jiu Mujue. If I don't go back, why should I go back? To face your mother's unpleasant face. No matter what I do, she won't like me. No matter what I do, I'm the selfish one. I'm the cruel one. I'm the one who does everything. Ju, tell me, why is your mother so cruel? It's been more than 20 years. In these 20 years, I gave her whatever she wanted. Even if she didn't want it, I would try my best to get it for her and personally offer it to her. But in the end, she regards it as a treasure, a priceless treasure. Not to mention liking it, even looking at it is an insult to her eyes. I am a high position. I am the first-grade Prime Minister of Foam Country. I can't get what I want. Even the current emperor has to give me some face. Which of the officials lower than me doesn't have 3 or 4 wives? What about me? I only guarded her. Even though she was old and faded, I still did not take a concubine. She, on the other hand, can't wait for me to take concubines. When I don't want them, she drugged me, stripped those women and sent them to my bed. She wants me to have concubines. She drugged me when I didn't want them. She stripped them and sent them to my bed. But this time, the words that came out of his mouth did not stop, as if he was pouring out all the grievances and unwillingness in his heart. Chapter 4:11. Hair. I'm raising someone else's bastard for her. What did I say? She. Jiu Wei gulped down a few mouthfuls of wine when he mentioned the sad past. Shen Yueji wasn't in the mood to listen to them talking about the past. She just found it strange that they were still in the inn in the middle of the night. She didn't expect to hear this. At that moment, her hands were cold. An indescribable emotion overflowed and she tightened her hands on the table. What did he mean by Murong Yun being unmarried and pregnant? What did he mean by he was raising another man's bastard for Murong Yun? She wasn't Jiu Wei's child. Before Murong Yun married him, he was already pregnant with her. Thinking of her childhood in the Prime Minister's mansion, Jiu Wei's love and indulgence among all the children, but she was the only one he didn't like. Shen Yueji finally understood that she wasn't his flesh and blood. It wasn't just because Murong Yun didn't like her, so he didn't like her either. It was because she wasn't born by him. She was born by Murong Yun and another man. According to Jiu Wei's arrogance, how could he treat the woman he liked and the child born by another man? There was a teapot on the table. She felt her mouth was dry and poured a cup into her mouth. Then she poured a second cup. She was just curious when she saw them here, but she didn't expect to hear this. Speaking of which, Jiu Yuqin is really pitiful. If it wasn't because her mother was pregnant with her, she might have eloped with that man and I wouldn't have anything to do with it. Her mother didn't like her and she was a bastard born by another man. How could I like her? Every time I see Yuna beating and humiliating her, I'm happy. That little bitch. It's a pity that she died too early. I didn't even have the chance to vent the hatred in my heart before she passed away so early. What a pity. When she mentioned Jiu Yuqin, Jiu Mujue's dark eyes suddenly contracted. For a moment, the atmosphere in the inn dropped a lot. But Jiu Wei didn't seem to feel it. He was still smiling coldly. Jiu Yuqin looks so much like that man, so much like him. He murmured and then drank a few mouthfuls of wine. Jiu Mujue's deep gaze fell on the countless empty jars on the coffee table. The big hand under the brocade robe couldn't help but tighten. He went to help Jiu Wei up. Father, you're drunk. I'll send you back. I'm not drunk. I'm not going back. You want me to go back and face your mother's cold face? Let me stay here, He let out a drunken belch. His vision became hazy and he fell asleep on the table. From the beginning to the end, Jiu Mujue didn't say anything unnecessary. Instead, she supported Jiu Wei and walked out. When he reached the door, Shen Yueji didn't know if it was an illusion, but he purposely paused. When Shin Yueji looked up again, the man was already far away. She pinched her eyebrows and glanced at the jars of wine on the table. He stood up and left. But just when she walked to the door, the man in front of her was dressed in white, his handsome face indifferent, expressionlessly looking at her. Shin Yueji knew that the pause she felt was not an illusion. He stood there. Although he didn't block her way, when Shin Yueji walked forward, he deliberately moved his feet. His intention was obvious. "How much did you hear?" Chapter 412. The man's eyes were indifferent without any extra emotion. His short sentence didn't have any emotional fluctuations. She understood that he was talking about what she had heard just now. Shin Yueji took a step back and leaned against the door. She looked at him up and down. "What should I say? If I say I didn't hear it, first young master Jiyu may not believe me. But if I say I heard it, will first young master Jiyu kill me? Speaking of which, it's really quite shocking. No wonder your entire Jiyu family doesn't like Jiyu Yuqin. She's a child that Madame Murong had with another man. But since Madame Murong was pregnant with Jiyu Yuqin first, why does Jiyu Yuqin call you brother? In terms of age, shouldn't she be a few years older than you?" As long as she could remember, Jiyu Mujua had existed in the Jiyu family. After hearing what Jiyu Wei said when he was drunk, Shin Yueji suspected that Jiyu Mujua was only 1 year older than her. If she was the child of Murong Yun and another man, then what about him? He was also Murong Yun's flesh and blood. He was born 1 year earlier than her. Was he also Jiyu Wei's child? Seeing the man's cold and lonely lips were almost pressed into a straight line, Shin Yueji smiled slightly. "First young master Jiyu is angry? Imperial concubine Shin, I hope you can keep this matter in your heart forever. There is no wall in the world that doesn't have a crack. I don't like to keep things in my heart. First young master wants me to keep it in my heart, but I won't let it rot in my heart. Not only that, I will also tell others about it. At that time, the whole capital will be talking about Madame Murong and Prime Minister Jiyu married." The man interrupted her in a low voice. He clenched his fists under his long sleeves. "Yuqin has no grudge against you. If you do this, her reputation will be ruined. A wild girl born by a slut didn't even know who her biological father was. Jiyu Yuqin had a bad reputation when she was alive. After her death, the rumors about her had died down a lot. If something like this happened to the Jiyu family at this time, she would be mentioned again." "Yuqin?" Shin Yueji looked at him amusedly. "Was the relationship between the late Empress and young master very good? Why did I hear that when the late Empress was being beaten by Madame Murong's men, you were just watching coldly from the side? Don't even mention stopping her, you even turned a blind eye to the late Empress begging you for help. What? Now you know how to care for your sister. From the looks of it, the late Empress doesn't seem to be your sister, young master." A chill suddenly burst out from the man's body, wishing that it could freeze people 3 feet. Shin Yueji smiled faintly, showing no signs of weakness. Just based on her status alone, no matter how harsh her words were, even if it didn't reach Jiyu Mujua's ears, she could be sure that he wouldn't dare to do anything to her. Shin Yueji took a step forward. "If it had been anyone else here today, as long as it wasn't me, surely young master Jiyu would have already killed her." Jiyu Mujua didn't say anything. She looked at her with her dark eyes. "Your Jiyu family and my Shin family have always been at odds with each other in the capital. You still want me to help you hide it?" She laughed coldly. "Doesn't young master Jiyu think that this is too wishful thinking?" Her gaze subconsciously swept towards the wooden fox carving hanging on his waist. Chapter 413. His bloodless thin lips were pursed into a straight line. After a long time, she heard his cold voice. "You can state your conditions." Shin Yueji stretched out her white hand. "Okay, this is what young master said. Give me the wooden fox in your hand, and I will pretend that nothing happened tonight, and I have not heard anything." She accurately saw the killing intent flashing in the man's eyes. Shin Yueji smiled. What? You are not willing? Jiyu Mujue clenched the little fox in his hand. Why it? Seeing young Master Jiyu so nervous, I think this little fox is very important to you. Gold and silver jewelry are rare treasures in the world. According to my identity, I naturally do not lack them. On the contrary, the little fox worn by young Master Goosewaist is very attractive to me. I just don't know how sincere young Master Jiyu is. Young Master Jiyu. Shin Yueji suddenly approached him. In an instant, his nose was filled with the fresh fragrance of a young girl. The man frowned. Shin Yueji stood on tiptoe and blew hot air into his ear. It was ticklish and numb, with a giggle. I kindly remind young Master Jiyu that the Emperor returned to the capital this time and brought back a monk. It seems that intentionally or unintentionally, he wants to replace your Jiyu family's position in the court. What did you say? Shin Yueji shrugged slightly. How can you and I, an imperial concubine and a minister, see through the Emperor's mind? Now, the Jiyu and Shin families are like the sun in the sky in the capital. The Emperor is afraid, so he wants to get rid of them. Young Master Jiyu is a smart man. Sometimes, just by looking at a person, he can see their thoughts and thoughts. As for the Emperor, you have followed him for so many years, it seems that you should understand him a little. Imperial concubine Shin told me this. Aren't you afraid that I will expose you to the Emperor? You won't. Shin Yueji's bright eyes flickered a few times. If it was anyone in your Jiyu family, they would, but young Master Jiyu, you won't. I can see that you seem to dislike the Emperor. She already knew that Jiyu Mujue did not like Feng Joqing. On the surface, he was still respectful, but in reality, every time they met, the respect in his eyes did not reach the depths of his eyes. Instead, there was a layer of coldness. Even yesterday at the general's mansion, after Feng Joqing appeared, he did not say a word. His dark eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. In the past, Shin Yueji did not understand why Jiyu Mujue hated Feng Joqing so much. After she married Feng Joqing, she hated him for a long time because of Jiyu Mujue's dislike of Feng Joqing. Now, when she looked at him again, she didn't find him so annoying. Really? The corners of the man's lips lifted and he sneered. Although I don't like your Jiyu family, eldest young master is much better than those unreasonable people in the Jiyu family. That's why I'm still willing to talk to eldest young master. Why do you think the Emperor's thoughts are so hard to understand? The important ministers of the two families are willing to sacrifice their lives for him. Their loyalty is so great that they want to dig out their hearts and show it to him. He, on the other hand, is still blindly suspicious and jealous, and even wants to get rid of him. By doing so, who knows how many officials' hearts have turned cold? Chapter 414. Young Master Jiyu, don't be so direct. This is not a cooperative relationship. I mean to protect our Shin family and the Jiyu family. What does the life and death of the Jiyu family have to do with me? The cold and decisive words made the smile on Shin Yueji's face freeze for a moment. What did Jiyu Mujue mean? Was he not a member of the Jiyu family? It was as if he saw the surprise on her face that she did not have time to hide. The man put one hand behind his back and stared at her for a while. If it is a cooperative relationship between us, I can consider it. If it is for the sake of the Jiyu and Shin families, then there is no need to mention it. Compared to the Jiyu and Shin families, Shin Yueji actually hoped to cooperate alone. In this way, the Shin family would not be involved and would not face danger. However, Jiyu Mujue's indifference to the Jiyu family's life and death was somewhat beyond her expectations. However, knowing his character, Shin Yueji didn't press him further. She still had some trust in Jiyu Mujue. He was different from those people in the Jiyu family who went back on their words. As long as he promised, he would definitely do it. He would never go back on his word, even if the two of them were on opposite sides. Shin Yueji suddenly twitched her lips and smiled. Well, since young Master Jiyu is so straightforward, then it is a personal cooperation between us. It has nothing to do with the Jiyu and Shin families, but I don't know. She paused. When the time comes, will young Master Jiyu be biased? I will do what I say. Since I have promised young Master Shen, I will not go back on my word. I know what Imperial Consort wants. Perhaps Imperial Consort doesn't know what I want now, but sooner or later, you'll know. Jiyu Mujue was indifferent. Shen Yueji really did not know what he wanted. He said he wanted the throne, but he was so indifferent to it. He said he wanted something else, but with his status, what could he not have? However, the fact that he agreed to cooperate with her so readily meant that Shen Yueji smiled slightly. At that time, if Prime Minister Jiyu wants to do anything to the Shen family, I hope young Master Jiyu can inform me. As long as the Shen family is honest, the Jiyu family will not do anything. Young Master Jiyu, what benefits do you want from me? Just say it. You only need to inform me of His Majesty's movements. You don't need to do anything else. Actually, young Master has found the wrong person regarding the Emperor's movements. I think that the Empress should be the clearest about it. If young Master wants to know about the Emperor's movements, when she saw the man's handsome brows, she suddenly narrowed her eyes, as if she was impatient. Shen Yueji nodded. All right. He returned from the inn. It was already dawn. Shen Yueji thought about it along the way. Why did she suddenly cooperate with Jiyu Mujue? It was completely subconscious. She couldn't fight against Feng Joqing by herself. Moreover, Mo Wushang was hiding something from her. He probably had a lot of things to do as well. She didn't want to disturb him at this time and distract him. In addition, Feng Joqing wanted to get rid of the Jiyu and Shen clans. The Jiyu clan was extremely loyal, and if Feng Joqing did not reveal his true colors, they would not believe him at all. However, Feng Joqing was the kind of person who, even if you were dead, would still think that he was a good person, a sage. She took a deep breath and recalled what Jiyu Mujue had said to her before she left. Sometimes, if necessary, she really needed to cooperate with Jiyu Mujue. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.